I spelled VodCast wrong. Hey, we had almost everything perfect. All right, so sandbox games. That's what we're going to talk about after taking 2 weeks off. Last thing we talked about was mostly me talking about Dragonbane. Then I got to play Dragonbane, and I really enjoyed it.
And I got to play it too.
Yeah, and Dragonbane, the campaign well, that's not really a campaign, I guess. I don't know, the mini campaign I'm trying to run. It is a sandbox in its own way. But as usual for this, I'm gonna toss it over to you. What do we mean when we say sandbox game?
So, I guess I like to define sandbox by comparing it to the other types that are there. So I like to say that there's 3 types. There's sandbox.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 types. There's sandbox.
All right.
Amusement parks and roller coasters.
Amusement parks. Okay. And roller coasters.
And roller coasters. And roller coasters.
And you are not like a certified game design teacher, to full disclosure, but this is sort of this is how you've decided to kind of compartmentalize them. All right.
The types of adventures, yeah.
All right. Walk me through it then.
Starting, we'll start from roller coaster, where think of like going on a roller coaster. You pay to get on.
Okay.
You strap in, and then the game, there's no deviation. You're going in the direction the rails are taking you. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. You can enjoy that roller coaster as much as you want.
Sure.
And there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be twists and turns, but there's only one twist and turn. There's only one. It's always going to be that twist and turn. It's always going to be that up and down. And that's the story that you signed up for, and you all are telling that story together.
Got it.
Now, that twist can be left or right, but it's good. The twist is going to happen at that point. So there's that.
Right.
Amusement park is sort of a bunch of smaller roller coasters.
Okay.
Inside of a confined space. Like this adventure is taking place in this location, and these are the 5 things that you guys are gonna do. And in those 5 things, there's a roller coaster, a ride. Now, that roller coaster may not be the span of an entire campaign. It's going to be the span of maybe a arc or an adventure.
So kind of like Mega Man games, right? Where they're like, there's 8 evil robots, and you could fight them in any order you want. But secretly, there's like a best order to fight them in. But like,
there's a best order to fight them. But you have the freedom to go to anyone you want.
Like this robot first, he drops an item that will make it easier to fight that robot over there. But you don't know that for sure. So like, it really just depends.
And then it also could just depend on what your party makeup is. Like, there's this boss that's really bad against range attacks.
Oh.
So and our party's
like a random example,
party's
maybe a boss that has like a layer effect that if you fail your intelligence save, you don't even realize the boss is there, as it just microwaves you to death. Yeah.
Another thing too is that your party is just very spec for social encounter. So you go to the social encounter, and that social encounter helps you go against.
You just crush that. Yeah. Okay. All right. And
so that's the idea, is that there's a map in front of you. There's a bunch of different locations. There's a bunch of different adventures to go on. You can choose which direction you want to go in those, how you want to go on those adventures, what order you want to do it in, but you're in a confined space. I would say most 5e adventures are amusement parks.
Okay.
Like this.
Fair. I refer to amusement park as mini adventure. Sorry, not mini adventure, mini sandbox. I refer to them as mini sandbox. And then with roller coaster, us olden times people, we just call it the train, the choo-choo train, right?
Railroad.
You're on rails, right? The railroad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to call it a roller coaster because roller coasters can be fun.
Okay. Oh damn. Riding on a train, not so much. Okay, I got you. All right, what's the next one?
So sandboxes.
All right.
Sandbox is a bunch of different amusement parks you can go to.
Oh wow. Okay, what a way to describe it. Okay, so Orlando.
So the idea is that the idea is that you can go to an adventure, an amusement park, see one ride, be like, okay, that ride's okay, and then leave and go to a different one. And that's what makes it a sandbox. And another thing too is that if you want to go even further, like not necessarily further, but like part of this is that when you go to that amusement park, you're the one that you kind of decide what rides go inside this amusement in a way.
Okay.
You kind of have a bit of control over that. Your party based off the decisions you make, and what you bring with you when you get into that amusement park from the other amusement park you went to.
So you tell the DM this is what is happening, versus the DM telling you this is what is happening. Okay, so under roller coaster, then the DM tells you what is happening.
Yeah.
Okay. So somewhere in the middle in amusement parks is a little bit of both, right? There's a little bit, which is why it's so popular.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I feel like that's a good way of summing it up. I was talking with my kid who's is a DM and has their own groups and stuff like that about this, right? They're playing in Curse of Strahd Classic. Curse of Strahd is a sandbox. I would not say that Curse of Strahd is an amusement park. I would definitely say that it is a sandbox. And I asked him, I said, now that you have played in a sandbox and are playing in a sandbox game, what do you prefer? Do you prefer sandbox or do you prefer linear? And they were like, linear. like I just want to show up and play the game and not have to make a ton of big decisions and just sort of like, react to what's happening and move on to the next thing. And I kind of want to sort of lightning round all of the campaigns that we have played and organize them into those three categories. Are you willing to participate in this experiment?
Sure.
All right. Yeah. So once again, we're gonna put sandbox. We're gonna put a category. Let's see. Put a category down here for amusement park. Now, another thing that I will call amusement parks, well, I don't use the term amusement parks, but it's a good term, is I call them gated sandboxes. And I think gated sandbox might actually be separate from amusement parks. So let me walk you through what a gated sandbox is.
I can already say, I'll tell you right, I feel like Curse of Strahd is more of a gated sandbox.
Really? Why do you think why do you feel it's a gated sandbox?
Because one, we are trapped in this specific location.
Ooh,
and
okay, I see what you're getting at. Okay.
Yeah. We are completely trapped in this situation, and this situation is out of our control.
All right, so that's more scope of the campaign. That's more scope of the campaign. Because the truest sandbox, right, would be running Planescape. You know what I'm saying? And saying you can go anywhere you want. It would be running Starfinder and saying you could go anywhere you want in the multiverse, in time, in space. Right? That's the ultimate sandbox.
I guess the thing here is that like we are trapped in this location. We cannot escape. Like no matter what we do, we cannot escape. But like it's the idea like you can limit that by just saying, okay, we're not going to this high level, but you guys can go everywhere that your characters can physically go, and you want to try and do, you can go ahead and try and do it. That'll be the sandbox. But you say, okay, this magic doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff that's there, but like, and I would say because in maybe minor spoilers for Curse of Strahd, but like there is an option of us, if we can convince these people, maybe they just take us.
Yeah. All right, so here's the thing though. How I view a gated sandbox is like an old school Zelda game, not a Breath of the Wild Zelda game, but like at first they're like there's three MacGuffins you need to get. You can get those MacGuffins in any order. After you get those three MacGuffins, the world opens up some more, and they say, okay, now there's 8 MacGuffins you have to get. And then after you get those 8 MacGuffins, the world opens up even more. Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. You guys had to go do 3 trials. After you finish the 3 trials, they were like, there's a whole world out there, but you're not allowed access to it until you get Magic Boat. So go get Magic Boat, and then the sandbox will grow bigger. You can go back to all the places you've been before, but now you can access even more areas. And then within that, right, there was a certain point where you guys were able to access even more of the world. And then so it's an expanding thing, but there's gates, right? The gates say like you have to hit this before you're allowed more sandbox. You have to hit this before you're allowed more sandbox.
The part of that is that those gates are very like there's only one way to get past that gate.
Right, linear gates that control the access to the sandbox. I call that a gated sandbox.
Yeah, so like another way you could probably...
In Curse of Strahd, it sounds stupid, but in Curse of Strahd, you could walk from wherever you arrived in Barovia right up to the castle and be like, get out here, bitch, I'm going to fight you. And admittedly, you'll die, and that'll be the end of the campaign, but it's not gated. It's not saying there's nothing that is stopping you from going and doing that. So to me, a gated sandbox is a sandbox game, but the content is doled out by hitting certain linear markers, which I think is different than your example of an amusement park. Because amusement park, you're allowed to go anywhere you want in any order, and then within those areas there are linear adventures to do. But a gated sandbox is saying like eventually you will have this entire map or this entire world, but you have to unlock access to bigger and bigger areas.
So the way I would think about that is like in a gated sandbox, that gate is that, okay, we need to have access to the water. We need a boat.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you want to get that boat? And then the players are the ones that decide, okay, how do we want to get a boat to allow us to travel this far?
That is less linear of a gate than like
that's when I think of it. That's when I think of it as a gated sandbox, where like there's a gate. You could do whatever, like you're in a sandbox. The sandbox has its borders. You can get past. You just figure out. You have to find figure out how you make the sandbox however you want it to get past this border.
Okay.
Whereas with this, I would say Odyssey is more of an amusement park where like we're in
because
like
it's
our ride.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still in this ride. There's only one way to get out of this ride. We're still in like this part of the amusement park. There's only one way to get out of this ride. Once we get out, we're in a bigger. We're like we went from one ride to another ride, and the only way to get to the other ride was going through this one gate.
Okay. So you would say a gated sandbox then is certain areas require growth and or resources to access, but the means of acquiring those
and that keeps it in the hands of the players, which is what the sandbox thing is.
Remain in
hands of the players.
Okay.
Like the way you get past that gate is still in the hands of the players.
So there would be an open sandbox and a gated sandbox, right? So an open sandbox is the entire world is available from session 1, right? And then we're saying that a gated sandbox is certain areas require growth and or resources to access, but the means of acquiring those resources remain in the hands of the players.
Yes.
So a weird example, an MMO where you're locked into a starting area until you finish the starting area, would that be an amusement park or would that be a gated sandbox?
Amusement park.
Because technically you can reach the max level in the starting area any way you want. Like you could just grind mobs until you got to the level cap and then left the area.
I guess it really depends. It really depends on the MMO. Like some MMOs, it's like you can't get past it until you do part of the story.
Until you have. All right. So okay. So
you can't do this until you do this quest.
You feel that amusement park is a sandbox with linear structure? Would you say?
Yeah. So like it's about the ideas of who's the ones that are determining the the limit, like or who's determining how to get past this limit. Okay. So like as a GM, and like that's why I'm saying like the roller coaster, GM has the controls, GM controls everything. GM's gonna tell you where. The amusement park, GM set up these boundaries, and this is how you get past this boundary. Players, you do figure out a way to get to that boundary, but I've set up the way you get past this boundary.
So
and here's the adventure
for
how you get to it.
Sliding scale here. Okay.
Yes.
Open
sandbox. It's in the hands of the players.
Open sandbox, 100% player-driven content.
even gated. What makes it sandbox? If it's a sandbox, the players are the ones who are determining how they get. It's in the plans of the players. The GM is there.
Well,
yes,
the GM built a world where certain content was locked away from the players by requirements that they would have to find a way to meet. So in a way, there's still GM involvement. Whereas we're saying here in an open sandbox, it's entirely available to the players from the start. So the GM has created a world that there are no real obstacles that the players would have to work hard to overcome. They can just go anywhere they want.
So I would say, putting obstacles in the way. I mean, that's part of making this an adventure. Yeah. But having it be like how you said, they can just walk up to the castle and then they'll end up dying. Yeah. That's you gave that in the hands of the players, right? Yeah. They have to. Here's a problem. They need to solve it.
Yeah.
You don't say here's a problem. You have to solve it this way.
Okay. So then, gated sandbox really isn't a separate thing from sandbox, right? Because
it's just yeah.
Okay.
So they're both sandboxes.
A subcategory of sandbox.
Yeah. It's still a sandbox. So sandbox is if the hands are if the means of doing something is in the hands of the players and not designed by the GM, then it's a sandbox.
Okay. And then if there's linear gates set up, the sandbox becomes an amusement park.
Yes.
Okay. Even if if I had a world and the world had 8 different regions, but the regions past the first region required them to do something I wanted them to do, it's not a true sandbox, it's an amusement park.
Yes.
I see. Because like an amusement park, hey, this is where it's all coming together. Yep. There's the cost of admission. I see. Okay.
Yeah. An example of that is say you had all these regions and one of the regions is a floating town.
Yeah.
Okay, how are they going to get to that? I mean, they have to figure out a way to get to that floating town.
Wouldn't floating town still be sandbox? Because technically,
that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It would be a sandbox. So in that case, you just make a floating town.
But if the only way to get to the floating town was you have to go
through your story,
go through my requirement, now it's no longer a sandbox.
Yeah.
All right. I'm on board for this. All right. So now that we've clearly defined the 3 different things, we've got sandbox, aka the city of Orlando or the county of Orlando. I don't know. And then we've got amusement park, and then we've got roller coaster.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we've got sandbox, amusement park, and roller coaster. All right. Let's get going. Icewind Dale.
Amusement park.
Amusement park. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Monster Hunter Molten K.
Probably amusement park, I would say.
It felt very amusement. It was so close.
Yeah,
it was so close to being a sandbox, but it did feel like you wanted us to hit certain story beats before.
No.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. I was going between railroad and amusement park.
Okay.
I did not think at all sandbox for.
All right. Your first run with the beginner's box of Cyberpunk.
The actual adventure or my Cyberpunk campaign?
Your Cyberpunk campaign, yeah.
I would say amusement park for that as well. It can be. I did not give them the opportunity for it to, it could be, but I did not give them the opportunity to make it into a sandbox.
Okay. All right. You've run another game, right? Icewind Dale, Cyberpunk. Those are your 3 that you've run?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those
and then, all right. So, Strength of Thousands. It feels pretty linear, bro. Feels pretty linear.
I was gonna say I'm gonna go roller coaster.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nothing wrong with that, but it definitely has.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So Strength of
Thousands. When you have a specific patron, it leans towards roller coaster.
Patron was actually a video that a VodCast I wanted to do at some point. I meant to message you about it, but yeah, Patron is great.
The Magambia is the patron for
okay.
Strength 1000. So yeah, it's going to be very linear.
All right, so let's run through, I guess, some of the games that I've run. I think almost all of them are going to be, amusement park except for Outlaws. But Outlaws roller coaster, 1000%. Yeah, okay.
1000%.
All right. It's weird, right? Because Cryptic Muffin was kind of, I don't want to say complaining, but kind of complaining a little bit about it being so linear, but then at the same time being it's kind of nice to have it be so linear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you would want maybe more of a streamlined amusement park.
Yeah. I think that it hurts a little to have Outlaws of Alkenstar be a roller coaster because the city of Alkenstar would be so awesome to have as a sandbox or an amusement park, but you don't.
I feel like
you don't get that, right? You don't get that from the adventure.
It would be nice if it was kind of similar to more, how Icewind Dale. It kind of starts off with you have a pretty big open space. You can go to any town. You can do everything you want, and then it compresses, and then you have your linear roller coaster. It's more like you go to an amusement park. There's a lot of small rides, and then it ends on the big roller coaster.
I'm gonna be honest. In Icewind Dale, I didn't really care that it was open world. It wasn't a big appeal for me that it was open world, because I was well, first of all, full-time GM, right? I just felt bad for you. I was oh my god, he prepped all of Icewind Dale, and we're probably not going to hit all the content. That's horrible.
I personally made it so you the way they a little bit behind the curtain here.
Yeah.
They said, okay, they're only allowed to do this many quests out of the 10 here, then do this many quests out of the 10 here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for each chapter. So they give you 10 quests, and they say do 4 or do 5.
Yeah.
And then move over to the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through and prepped everything, but I had made the conscious decision that after you guys hit 3 quests, the other ones move forward. And there was sometimes when you went to a town and it had already, whatever happened, that town happened. People were sad about it.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Let's see. Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. I guess it's amusement park, right? Question mark?
Yeah, I would say amusement park.
Yeah. All right.
And it's a really good combination of having the patron, but and that clear patron that you're following this because you're this is your guys' goals. You guys need to do this, but still making it be open enough that you guys can figure out which ride you want to go on to do the thing you need to do.
Yeah. Red Hand of Doom. Amusement park, right? It's I
don't know too much about because I jumped in and out of it. So
Red Hand of Doom is basically in the beginning. Well, all right, I add levels 1 through 4 to the beginning of the campaign. Mm-hmm. The campaign actually starts at level 5. But at level 5, they're you roll up on this town for whatever reason, and the town needs your help, and you're just I'll help this town. And then they're go to this nearby ruins and investigate what's going on, and then boom, you're in it. But once you're in it, there's a number of ways you can proceed. Then there's an enemy army that marches from the left side of the map to the right side of the map, and before they reach the right side of the map, you have to have prepared to defeat them, and you can do that any way you want. So you could sabotage the army's efforts. You could travel around Dragon Age style, recruiting allies to your cause so that you have a better defense. You could go and try to convince people to abandon their homes and just give up to the army. So you could do anything you want to try and stop that army. I
will say sometimes a campaign can be one at the start and then transition to the other one later on. Absolutely. It's necessarily it has to be all that. That kind of sound. If at that point it's up to the players to figure out how they have a goal. Yeah, the goal has been set for them. But however they do that goal is not in your hands. It's up for them to figure out. And you're not putting out okay, the only way they can succeed is by doing this or this or this. These are the only 3 things they can do to succeed. If you haven't, if as a GM and or as an adventure person, you haven't set that out and it's up to them to figure out anything like that, then sure, it could have been started off as an amusement park or a railroad and then led it into a sandbox. You got off the roller coaster into a sandbox, I don't know exactly how specific those goals are in Red Hand. I know they had to save the town, but
yeah, it definitely, to me, it felt like it starts as a roller coaster, it shifts to a sandbox, and then it returns to a roller coaster. Because after you finish all your sandbox stuff, you show up for the finale, and then at the finale, they're like, you either did it or you didn't do it, and now you got to finish the campaign. Like, you have to go finish the campaign now. And so it feels like, go here, there's nowhere else you can go. Go here to start the adventure. You go there, and then they're like, figure it out. And then and then they're like, see you in a month. And then you come back a month later, and they're like, go finish it up. So it kind of has that weird scope, right? Yeah. All right,
so
what else?
I could see, that sandbox, as long as the GM is not, the one determining the solutions.
Yeah.
Then yes, for sure.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. Curse of Strahd. I think the Curse of Strahd is sandbox, in my opinion, but that's maybe how I'm running it. I don't know.
It depends on the solutions. Like.
I mean, the campaign, they really don't. Even the raw adventure doesn't give me any fucking solutions. Like, it just says, like, this is it. I don't know. I mean, this is the campaign.
I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, based off of what we've done,
yeah,
if that's kind of maybe it is more sandbox, because, like, yes, we're in a confined location, but with the way you're running it, if there is if we had, I guess, because we were isekai'd, it makes it feel a little bit more amusement park than
well, what part of it? I mean, you can't view, in my opinion, the edges of the map as breaking the definition of a sandbox.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, it's not that. It's the coming up with solutions.
Yeah.
Like, we've, I guess, because our characters are not part of this world of magic.
Yeah.
And, like, don't know how this world works, which is also part of the adventure of being, fish out of water. We can't really come up with solutions ourselves. We have to ask other people for solutions.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I feel like, I mean, that's life, though, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, to say that your access to, or your lack of access to, resources impacts whether or not the shit's still in your hands. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, at no point does the DM say, you need to do this, or you have to do this, right? Like, at no point in the campaign have I ever presented anything in Curse of Strahd as this must be done, right? At the end of the day, it's still whatever you guys decide to do, right? Like, sometimes it doesn't feel like you have a choice, right? But at the end of the day, you guys wound up in these situations, and sometimes in life you end up in a situation where you don't feel like you have a choice, but you always have those choices. You always have that freedom to say, no, I'm not going to do this. Will that result in the end of the campaign? Yeah, but there is no actual ending to the campaign. There's no pre-planned, like, this is how the campaign ends. Like, it very much is like, this is the world, this is the story. What do they do? You know? Yeah. So,
it's one of those things where, like, because I don't know what's behind the scenes on here, it, like, based off the experience, it felt like a lot of stuff is like, okay, well, I mean, this is the only way we can really do something, because we haven't seen any other options.
Right.
But that's because that's the lens of our characters.
Right. That's what you guys have experienced in the sandbox.
I would say,
yeah. So remember, I've got 3 groups running through the same campaign, and the group that has access to magic, they have no idea what's going on, because they have discovered, you guys in the other groups have discovered information before they did that made a bigger difference than having magic. So it really is like, did you go left or did you go right? And that changes the entire campaign. And that, to me, is like the definition of a sandbox game, because If you got 3 groups and one goes left and one goes right and one goes straight, and now for the rest of the campaign everything is different, that you're nowhere near a roller coaster at that point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it wasn't even like, oh, we'll go to this amusement park, you go to that amusement park, you go to that amusement park. I mean, it was like, all right, now that you went left, do you go left again, or do you now go right? And then, you know, you're never going to be back on the same track that other group is on. Like there's no chance. Everything's different. Everything's changed. And that's been very fascinating to me, to watch that process. Let's see, another game. Salt Marsh. Salt Marsh to me was amusement park, because it was at Raw, it was a bunch of adventures. Well, Raw, it was linear. I want to say that. Like, if you purchase the Ghost of Salt Marsh book from Wizards of the Coast, it's just like, run this adventure. Okay, now run this adventure. Okay, now run this adventure. You could argue that was amusement park, but not really, because you weren't allowed to do the adventures out of order. How I ran it is I took all of the adventures, and then I took a bunch of adventures from 2nd edition that took place in a similar theme and location. I threw them all into one map. And so it was a sandbox, but like you're saying, it was an amusement park, because you're deciding which of these adventure paths, which of these adventure series you want to engage with each time. And then, you know, you kind of do that. So I would definitely put my version of Ghost of Salt Marsh. So I'll call it Evil Tides of Salt Marsh. Alright, I got a good question for you. Storm King's Thunder. Is Storm King's Thunder a sandbox, or is it alright.
I didn't watch it. You gotta let me know.
So let me give you a briefing without spoiling the campaign. Giants are going nuts. Stop them. That's it. That's the campaign. I feel like that's pretty sandbox. At no point does the adventure tell you, the DM, how to deal with that. It just says, here's all the places in the Sword Coast. Here's the entire Sword Coast. And this is what's happening in these different parts of the Sword Coast. The end. At no point does it say, have them go here first. Have them go here first. Have them do this first. Never. It never tells you that. It's just like, here's the place. I don't know. Good luck. Now, all of it is supposed to push you towards an ending. Like, the writer had an ending in mind. But more so that I believe than Curse of Strahd. I feel like Curse of Strahd, the obvious ending is you kill Strahd. But, like, it doesn't necessarily have to go like that, and it generally doesn't go down like that. In Storm King's Thunder, I'm not going to say that what the ending is, but it's very hard to imagine that campaign ending in any way other than the way the writers envisioned it. So it feels like sandbox and then linear ending tacked on at the end.
I mean, it's like it's a sandbox with one entrance and one exit.
So back here at Red Hand of Doom a little bit.
Yeah, and that's I guess you can say that's the sandbox with boundaries.
Yeah. Linear in and linear out. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Lost Mine of Phandelver. You familiar with Lost Mine of Phandelver?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that's a very small amusement park.
Yeah.
Also, the other one, right? The other box set.
Yeah. Icefire Peak.
Okay.
1000% amusement.
Icefire Peak.
It's a quest board.
Yeah, that's a great term for amusement park. Also, is quest board. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then Lost.
What about Witchlight?
Witchlight. So my kid and I talked about Witchlight for sure. That is definitely amusement park.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. But that to me, that is a very gated, right? Because you literally you have to finish area 1 before you get to area 2. But you're allowed to go back. Well, okay. You have to finish area 1 to get to area 2. You have to finish area 2 to get to area 3. Once you finish area 3, you can double back to area 2. But you can't actually get back to area 1 ever. I allowed you guys to get back to area 1 because, I'm just fucking great dungeon master, I guess. I don't know, I'm just fucking the greatest.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Mm-hmm. But like, It definitely had that gated sandbox feel where I'm like, well, welcome to blank. What are you gonna do now? You know?
A ride could be the entire zone.
Yeah.
Each of those, zone 1 is one ride, zone 2 is another ride, zone 3 is another ride.
All right, so we're gonna put Witchlight as amusement park.
I think so.
I feel like even the intro.
It's closer to it. Could be close to a roller coaster too, but I feel like it's a little too open to be a roller coaster.
Because everyone knows the beginning is a carnival, because that's what the big ad campaign for the thing was, right? It's there's a carnival. It's just gonna be carnival hijinks the whole time. No, but you could just immediately beeline to the end of chapter 1, or you could go and explore the carnival, try out all the mini games, see all the rides, see all the sights. And you didn't have to see all of them. You didn't have to do all of them. You could do the ones that you wanted to. To me, that's still a lot of freedom for the players. That doesn't have that same linear feel. Like a linear adventure, a roller coaster says, you do A, nice. All right, now we're going to do B, good stuff. All right, now we're going to do C. All right, good. Yeah, there's never a point where the players are like, I don't want to do C. Like, can I do something else? I want to do F. And it's like, no, there's no F. You can't. No, there's no F. C. That's what we're doing right now. Yeah. All right, let's see. I don't know. I've run a lot of games. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Think about it. Like, what if there's like a build your own roller coaster type of thing, where it's like, okay, we're gonna do A, and then we're gonna do either B1, B2, or B3.
Like a choose your own adventure.
You pick, like a choose your own adventure. You do B2. Okay, you did B2. Now we could do C, C2, C1, or C.
Would you say that that's still linear enough that it would fall under roller coaster?
I think so.
So we'll put choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
AKA like the illusion of choice.
It's like the in between amusement park and roller coaster.
Yeah.
Kind of like the sandbox with the borders is kind of like the.
Well, big advice that I give people that ask me, they're like, "Hey, Crash, I'm going to run a one shot for the first time. Do you have any advice for me?" And I tell them, the entrance to the dungeon is always where they think it is, and the reason for that is, the biggest mistake that people make on a one shot is they decide to start in town or at a tavern instead of in the fucking dungeon.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm running the Pathfinder Beginner box at work on Monday, and so with a bunch of people who've never played TTRPG before, so I'm starting them, inside the basement.
Yep. That's
with just some flavor text before they got there.
When I ran it for friends and family in person over, I think, Christmas or whatever, I was like, yeah, listen, this lady Tamily, she hired you to do this shit. You're in here getting ready to do the shit. Let's do the shit. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't do that, if you don't take the good advice and do that, and they're like, well, I don't want to go down into the basement. I want to go down to the docks. Oh, and you're like, oh, well, at the docks, there's a cave under the docks, and they're like, oh, a cave under the docks, I'm gonna go in the cave, and you're like, cool, you're in the dungeon. Or they're like, well, I'm gonna go out into the courtyard, and you're like, ooh, you see a well, and they're like, oh, I want to look in the well. Well, you hear stuff down in the well. Oh, I'm gonna go down the well and see what's down there. It's the dungeon. Like, that to me, that's choose your own adventure. You know what I'm saying? Like, you give the illusion of choice, but ultimately you still end up in the same place.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. All right. Did I run any other games that I can think? Oh, Paradise Vale Season 1. I feel like Season 2 also, but Season 1 was just one of the lightning in the bottle, like, greatest things that I've ever been a part of. I feel like that is definitely Sandbox, because it was whatever they wanted to do.
West Marches almost always.
All right, so just put all good West Marches.
Yeah, you good? Yeah.
All right. So do Paradise Vale, Kingmaker. I think Kingmaker is a sandbox.
Yes, because a lot of at least from based on what I've been seeing from your prep and everything like that, and what I've been hearing about from the adventure, it is pretty much, hey, you guys need to make a kingdom. How you're gonna do that is up to you.
Now, what I think is fun about Kingmaker, without too many spoilers, is, it's a 600-page book, right? So there's obviously some adventure going on. And they say, at this point in the timeline, this shit will start happening, and it's going to start interacting with the players and whatever the players have going on. To me, that is still a sandbox, because at no point does it say how the players should deal with it. It just says that this will happen to them at this time. Or it says,
the Matt Koval thing.
Yeah, if they go into this hex, this is going to happen. That's it, right? So it's a whole book of like things that happen, but it's not it's not like the things that happen. Yeah, it's not like the things that happen are the adventure. Now, it breaks my heart, because the more research I do into Kingmaker, the more I find that groups are just like running it as a linear adventure. They're like running it by the book, right? Like they say, oh, well, then this happens, and now we go and we do this part of the adventure, and now we go to this part of the adventure. I think to a certain extent that Pathfinder kits are very linear.
Most APs are roller coasters. Like APs that I've looked up, that I've thought about running, a lot of them feel like roller coasters.
Yeah. 4th edition, this is wild to me, by the way. 4th edition D&D, which is what inspired 2nd edition Pathfinder, was very linear. All of the adventures were like, this happens, now this happens, now this happens, and this happens. The dungeons were very, like, they were a straight fucking line, like going down a subway car. Like, there was no, like, deviation. It was like, this room, this room, this room, boss chamber. What was crazy to me is, of every system I've played, 4th edition was the most flexible for changing level and power and everything on the fly. So, like, if there was ever a system that would have been the best system to run a sandbox in, it would have been 4th edition, but 4th edition was so heavily focused on linear gameplay. It was crazy. But, like, what I love about Bethesda games is that their primary default is like, it's a sandbox. And it's like, I believe you. It's a sandbox. How many people you know that have never actually beaten Skyrim? That's how you know it's a sandbox. Like, I played 400 hours. Well, what did you think of the final boss fight? They're like, what final boss fight? Like the end of the game. The game has an ending? It's like, yeah. Did you forget to? Oh my God, you didn't. They're like, no. Wait, there's an ending to the Skyrim has an ending? Yeah. So if people feel like that about a game, the game definitely is a sandbox. What I love about it is wherever you go in the world, everything is appropriately leveled to you, right? Like, things level up to you. Some things stay weak, some things are always strong, but for the most part, Bandit here is going to be just as strong as Bandit there, because everything scales with you as you explore the world. 4th edition had a very smart, like, scaling system for monsters, that a goblin at level 1 could be turned into a goblin at level 10 and level 20 and level 30 and still be viable and still present a challenge and be interesting. I feel like Pathfinder 2, because of its roots in 4E, can do that, just not as well. I think they had chose, like, that was one of the things they chose not to do, was like make things too scalable. They rather have that's why they make so many different monsters, and they have families. Because I don't think they wanted to make it so that, hey, we could just turn our goblin. I mean, the math is there, so you could do it, right?
But you don't want to. I don't think they wanted to do it.
And there's tools in Foundry that you could say, like, hey, make these goblins level 12 now. It'll make all the goblins level 12. I think that is a cool feature of a sandbox. I know that not all sandboxes are like that, right? Like Curse of Strahd, the way I'm running it, like, you could go to the castle at level 1. You're gonna die. That's gonna be the end of the campaign, but you could go there, right? I'm not gonna de-level Castle Ravenloft because you decided to go there. You know what I'm saying? Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, very much like, you can go beat the game right now. You know what I'm saying? Go right now. 30 minutes into the game, go beat the game if you want to. But they're not gonna de-level, like, the boss for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, if you're good enough, you can go in there and Dark Souls your way to victory. Otherwise, you probably need to go out there and play the game. So yeah, I do love that about sandboxes. I do think that's really fun with sandboxes. However, sometimes I just like to have a story, you know what I'm saying? Have a nice story, experience that nice story, be told like, now we're gonna go here, and I'm like, that sounds nice. Let's go there. How do you feel? What's your preferred? Like, if you had only one flavor for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Amusement park for sure.
Amusement
so I get
park.
best of both worlds. You get the best of both worlds from that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can have a part of the amusement park be a small sandbox. Be like, hey, this is just happening right now. You guys figure out how to do it, and I'm gonna take a break. My brain's gonna take a break because I've been focused too much on trying to craft the story. That you guys are gonna craft it yourselves by telling me what you guys are doing.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. And you can have one of the rides in your amusement park be that.
Okay.
But I do like the idea of like I feel like I would enjoy like a really good cyberpunk sandbox. Yeah. Like I feel like I would really enjoy, especially if we have like, you know, it was a 2077 type of thing, and I would just, you know, have the world and be like, okay, this is what corporations are doing. You guys do figure out what you guys want to do while this is happening. And I was actually mentioning this on the server, was like, you know, maybe when the 77 kit comes out and like look at it, maybe I'll do like a mini West March. Yeah. And just say, okay, these are what, and like for me, I'm just thinking about big picture, like, okay, this is what the corporations are doing, and you know, I'm gonna say this is happening this week. Does anybody want to jump in and go on an adventure and do something? Like, I'll just say like, hey, this corporation, there's news on the thing that, you know, they're moving some major shipment from somewhere to someplace, and say like, okay, you guys form a party. How you guys want to try and get involved in the shipment? Either ask them to escort it, or maybe try and rob it, or, you know, do whatever you want, and then we'll figure it out. But I don't know if I'm going to do that. I mean, this sounds pretty cool. Also sounds like a, you know, decent amount of work too. I'm trying to cut back this year, but
so that's my thing as a DM, is that a linear adventure is an absolute pleasure to prep, to write, to design, to run, because I know what's going to happen. I have all the assets ready for it. I'm not going to prep things that don't get used. It's just a really satisfying experience. That being said, the amusement park has its merits because you work really hard to prep one area. They they have time to explore that area and do it in whatever order they want, blah blah blah, and then while they're doing that, you can prep the next big area, and then you open the gate and you say, hey, this park's open now, you can keep playing in this park, but now you can also play in that park. And then they move into that park, and then you're like, hey, now I'm going to prep this one. For Odyssey, it was so much prep. And if it had been all available from the beginning, I would have been miserable, because it was just, you know, it was a huge adventure. And so
I think if you're gonna do a sandbox, you gotta be okay with having a lot of theater of mind.
Oh, for sure, yes. Yeah. Or you have to just have a tremendously well-developed compendium, right? Like you have to have a map for every occasion. And if you don't have a map for every occasion, you have to have a group that's willing to just use that grid with the marker and you know, just make it happen. That has to be the mindset of everyone involved. Like the cost of freedom is graphics.
Fidelity.
Yeah, exactly, fidelity. Like I would love to run a sandbox campaign. I think that'd be amazing. A full, complete sandbox campaign. Like, you start in town, and you guys form your adventure party. You decide what you're gonna do. Whatever you say, we are gonna do it. Like that is so fun. And I've been a part of stuff like that before, and it's an absolute joy. And then, even further, a procedurally generated world. Like, we have enough tables and tools and stuff that you could start a grid-based, or no, a hex-based like world, a hex scroll. Start in the starting hex, and then that's all you as the GM know about. And then when the players are like, well, we're going to explore outside of this hex, you hit a button, and it tells you, the DM, like, this is what's in this hex, and then you just run it, you know, like whatever they decide to do there. And they're like, okay, well, we're gonna go to this hex, and you hit a button, and it generates that hex. You have no idea until you, as the DM, hit that button.
That's like the GM actually playing a bit too. Like,
yeah,
there's gonna be that moment where you roll that button, and then this pops, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, I would love to develop like a table, like a series of tables that you click one button and it just boop, it just poops it out. And
it says, AI, what was that thing? AI Dungeon Master, the DM.
Honestly,
was that
bro,
one?
We could do it with
a type-in game.
It was
a game that I think you
AI
played.
Dungeon, AI Dungeon.
AI Dungeon, yeah.
We could honestly do it with ChatGPT pretty easily. You could just say, like, you could tell it, like, these are the parameters for a hex, and when I ask you for a new hex, you just tell me all these things, and it would be like, okay. So you could tell it, like, are there any settlements? Are there any of this? And you could tell it ahead of time. You could be like, there's going to be a such and such percentage chance that there's a settlement already. There's going to be a such and such percentage chance that there's this. You feed it all that data. It learns all that data. And now, from now on, you could just say, we need a new hex. And then it'll just vomit out that new hex for you. And then you just run it however it is. I think it would just be, I think it'd be incredible, right? Like, you don't know the world, they don't know the world. It'd be pretty cool. But again, the cost would be fidelity, right? Because you couldn't be like, and here's an incredible handout, and here's a customized map for this encounter, and here's this, and here's that. I mean, everything would have to be just experienced together as it was happening. So, but it'd be pretty cool. To like just let the players decide everything. Now, I'm going to put it out here. Not every group, not every player, and not every group is meant for a sandbox game. That's what Curse of Strahd taught me. Curse of Strahd taught me that big time. People, for the most part, they want direction. Like, they want to know what's going on. And you can have that in a sandbox game. Like, just go join an organization. Find a patron, and now you have a sandbox game, but for as long as you want, you also have some linear direction. That's the joy of a sandbox game. Like, I'm playing Fallout. See, I could wander around. I could wander around and do whatever the fuck I want, or I could say, hey, you guys need something? And they're like, I have a lot of things I need. I'm like, great, I'm going to do everything that you need.
I think that's what happened to us in Curse of Strahd.
You just got burned out on your freedom.
We had too much freedom, and then we were like, okay, let's join a faction. Yeah,
it makes sense. It makes sense. And I think I don't want to put it all out there, but I think where Daybreak has really struggled is that they are fiercely independent. And that independence just leaves them adrift. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they have nothing. They're anchored to nothing. They're just a leaf in the wind. They just blow around. They don't really have a plan. They don't really know where to go. They don't really know what to do. They don't really, like, they think they do, but they don't really know. I think that sometimes if the sandbox can be overwhelming, you know what I mean? And I think people forget that real life is a sandbox, right? And that you could be doing anything you want, but you have decided to add structure to your life. And in a sandbox game, you can add structure to your life. You could be like, hey, we don't know what the fuck to do. We're going to go to the local lord. And we're going to be like, hey, homie, do you have anything we could do? And they're going to be like, I do have things I need you to do. And you're like, tell us what to do. And that's still a sandbox game. Yeah. Because you chose to... That
was your solution to your problem.
You chose to get some direction. Like, that's okay. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating to me. All right, so I want to run through a couple of video games with you, because, you know, that's tangential to TTRPGs. In the mix and match sandbox amusement park roller coaster. All right. Final Fantasy 16, yo. Linear roller coaster. Yeah?
I mean, I want to say I would say like, I'm kind of thinking, okay, how could it be? I'm trying to think, how could it be?
Definitely not. Yeah, them side quests.
But,
that wasn't no role. That wasn't an amusement park.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
most games, it's hard. It's hard to have a sandbox game in a game because they're designed to have and a lot of times they're designed to have solutions.
All right.
The people who made the game designed solutions. But yeah, for sure, Final Fantasy 16. Yeah,
I'm gonna put it out there. I loved Final Fantasy 16. I loved it. I loved having no control over anything. I loved being just told, like, now you're gonna go here, and now you're gonna go here, and now you're gonna fight this guy. Now you're gonna go here, and I was like, good, yes, thank you, because like it's nice sometimes to just sit down and like have it all played out. All right, Cyberpunk 2077. Amusement park. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's multiple endings to the game, but you still have to do certain things, right? There's no way to avoid those certain things.
No, there's only a few solutions that are out there for you to grab. Yeah, and there's only a few ways to get to that solution. Get those solutions.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Fallout 4 that I'm playing right now. Is that still an amusement park? Or do you think it's a sandbox?
I want to say it's an amusement park, but it has a huge, like, it's a really really big amusement park. Because every time you get involved in anything, it's only really like maybe one or two solutions.
All right, so
it's not you making a decision about the solutions. It's the game making the decision.
So
like,
almost
like
sandbox.
in your random mod that you ran into that all that happened when you got tricked by that little girl.
Yeah.
And you came out. Like, what choices did you have?
Right.
Which is like, it's hard to, like, I would say this is the closest you can get to a sandbox in a video game. So I would say, if we want to say like I don't think there's any other video game.
I have a video game that's a sandbox, bro. Get ready. Starts with an M. Minecraft.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all of the Minecraft derivatives, right? So
yeah, survival games, pretty much.
Yeah. Survival.
Power
games.
World. All those.
Yeah.
Sandboxes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say yeah.
But
Power World, Minecraft. The survival games where there's not really, like, I guess the games that don't have a specific story and you make up the story, the player makes up the story themselves, then yes. That's those are sandbox.
So even open world games like Witcher 3, Breath of the Wild, those would still be amusement park, right? Because at the end of the day, you still have to do certain things, right? Like, it's still like the player doesn't define every part of the experience. The player can't opt in or opt out of those experiences. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like
the game design is not is the story that the player's supposed to partake in, rather than just the world that the character's supposed to live in. I mean, they do both. Like in Breath of the Wild and stuff like that, there's both. They make this big world that you can, like that. There's like a sandbox portion where, like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing in this portion of the game. But like at the end of the day, like the only way for me the goal here is for me to in Legend of Zelda is defeat Ganondorf. How do I do that? Okay, these are the three. These are the two things you can do to do it.
Well, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. If there was any game that went all the way to giving the player as many possible solutions to every problem, it is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
like it is absolutely insane. And Tears of the Kingdom,
actually,
with the machine building and stuff like that.
I would say no. Okay, so Breath of the Wild, amusement park. I think Tears of the Kingdom is more sandbox.
Oh, okay.
And it's because of that whole the building thing.
So Tears of the Kingdom, the power of engineering.
Yeah. At that point, they put the solutions into the hands of the players.
Oh yeah, like it's crazy. Like how I played and beat Tears of the Kingdom, radically different from like playthroughs I've seen of other people, people I've talked to, solutions I came up with. You go on Reddit, you go on Twitter, you see people doing shit that you never even thought of. Yeah. And it's all possible because they built such an incredible engine. Yeah. Oof. All right. So now we've got some good examples of like the three different things: the sandbox, the amusement park, and the railroad, or the roller coaster. You prefer, if you had to choose only one, the amusement park, because it gives you the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Man, I don't know. If I could only play one for the rest of my life, I think I would probably pick Sandbox, because I feel like I tell a good story. So even if I had to tell the story as the player, the freedom to break off and tell the story my way, the freedom to do things however I want, but then still having the option of finding some direction in the game, that would be very appealing to me.
The thing is, though, you could have that I guess this is one of those things where like this is the default, and then if I need to get that structure, I can do this thing. Whereas with amusement park, the default is okay. There's the structure, but maybe in this ride is a sandbox.
Here's a good one: Grand Theft Auto 5 versus Grand Theft Auto 5 Online. Right? Grand Theft Auto 5 Online, sandbox. Grand Theft Auto 5 amusement park. Because Grand Theft Auto 5, the only story there is the story that you are telling as the player, that you are making for yourself, that you are experiencing. Okay. Man, so how do we wrap all this up? Like, what should people like? What advice would you have for a GM that's like, I want to run a sandbox game? Like, what's the top 3 advice for running a sandbox game?
So I would say the first things first is that you need to make sure your players know that the story is up to them, and that there's like they can't, if they're upset that something is boring, it's because of the decisions they've made. Right?
Oh, damn. Okay.
You have
control the pace and flavor.
Yeah, players control pace and flavor of the story.
All right.
So you need to make sure you have a good group of players who are willing to work together. You know, are understand their expectations. Like, you know, they have to be a really close knit, you know, group that are, and be creative enough to the point where they want to tell a story themselves too. Because if they're coming here for you to tell them a story, then they're not coming here for a sandbox. Yeah,
fair enough. That expectations again before starting any game. Yeah. All right. What's the third? What's the third advice?
Third advice.
Manage expectations about fidelity.
Like, I mean, that's part of number 2. Just expectation, making sure everybody's on the same page about what's going on here. I would say, and that's going to be, honestly, that is like all 3 of these: sandbox, amusement park, or roller coaster. Expectations got to be managed
for sure
differently. Yeah.
But like, so many people get it into their head that they're going to run a sandbox game, and then they have no idea how to do it or what they're doing.
So I would probably take the expectations out of specifically sandbox, and that's just running games in overall. Okay. And for sandbox in specifically fidelity, yeah, for sure. Make sure, you know, everybody's on the same page about fidelity. Make sure the players know that they're going to be the ones controlling the pace and the story. And then I think third is focus more on the world. As a GM for yourself, focus more on what's happening in the world and not what's happening to the players, and just follow the players as they go about the world. And it's just, you know, this is what's happening in the world. How the world reacts to them is what your job is as a sandbox GM. Not about, you know, being guiding the players along. The players are going to be doing what they want to do. That's their job as, you know, being the players in the sandbox game. Your job as a GM is to react as the world, and the world is going to be doing their stuff with or without them. So when they get involved, that's when we kind of zoom in and you see what's going, like, you know, the world reacts.
So I'm going to add to that then that a campaign calendar is important, because I feel like a campaign calendar is you acknowledging that the world is a real place that doesn't revolve completely around the players, and that things will happen in the world. Will the players interact with that or not? How will they interact with that? But you don't get to decide how they will. You just say that these things are happening.
Yeah. And when you say, like, I agree having a calendar, but that calendar doesn't necessarily have to be like days by days. It could just be, okay, they have done something, time has passed.
Right.
Like, and now that time has passed, this has happened in the world. And yeah, you can freeze the world until the next time they do something. But like the idea is that the world, as they move forward, the world is also moving forward too.
All right.
Yeah.
Oof. All right, let's check chat real quick before the end. All right, let's see. World events will happen. It's all about how you deal with it. There's a whole section in Tales from the Loop that explains how you could do a sandbox and has some good design goals on how to do it. Let's see. Paradise Vale Season 1. Let's see. In a sandbox, there's never a mandatory choice. There's always freedom, even freedom to fail. Let's see. This is how I feel about Steinhardt. It's an amusement park, and both me and my players are completely fine with that. Fair. Environment, stage development, dominant sentient race, maybe. Oh, okay, for the Hex generation. Got it. A sandbox has work for players to do outside of the game. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean,
they got to make decisions.
Yeah. Okay. So number 5, players need to take ownership of their role as world-defining and story creating entities. All right. AKA show up ready to make decisions and play the game. Like, don't show up and then spend the first hour of a 3-hour session trying to figure out what you should do. That's my opinion. I mean, that's part of the game, sure, but like, we have the technology, we have the tools. You can be talking it out in between sessions.
Honestly, I mean, part of that is also like, if they show up and they want to have, the
like in
part of the sandbox,
in
character discussions and figuring out what they want to do, and that's how they work. I mean, it's not like nobody in Mythic was. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody. But we spent an entire session, just trying to figure out how to open a door. So, and, the moral consequences of opening this door. But
I mean, even Critical Role spends the whole session trying to open a door sometimes, I mean, even the pros.
Pros, okay. But yeah, if that's your sandbox, that's the sandbox. If all the players are on the same page for that, including the GM, then okay, yeah, do that. But you can't be complaining that a player shouldn't be complaining that there's no adventure for them. In this case, because they're the ones who make that adventure.
I got you. Well, we have a historical account here. Oren's player, Major Snoot, says, "I remember complaining about it." So I feel like your argument has been torn to pieces already.
No, because that tells you that one player, all 5 players were not on the same page.
Okay. I don't know if 3 years later you guys are on the same page on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think you could do with a lot more kicking down of doors. That's what I'm saying. I'm a door kicking down kind of player. I'd rather get in over our heads and die than wait all week to play and then just discuss whether or not we're gonna open the door. I'll just kick the fucking door down. I'm not a great fit for every party. Let me just put it out there. I'm definitely not a great fit for every party. Alright, well, we are at time. I think we covered a lot. It's a big subject. We certainly did, this was not a seminar on how to build and run a sandbox game. This is a conversation about identifying, the heart of a sandbox game. Which is to say, complete and total freedom for the players. To go where they want, do what they want, be what they want, but also to take ownership of that power, right? Like living with the consequences of their actions, finding solutions for the problems that they make for themselves or find for themselves. And the DM having the willpower to be hands off. Let them fall. Let them make mistakes. Let them burn shit to the ground. Just, give them the consequences to deal with fairly and equitably based on, what's happening. But you as the DM in a sandbox are willing to
There's a world, not the story.
Keep your hands off. You are the world reacting to the players and the story that they are creating. So all right, great. Well, enjoy your Friday nights. And the biggest announcement I have is tomorrow afternoon we're going to play Tales from the Loop with Cadenex. So if you're curious about that game, or you're a big fan of any sort of modern sci-fi or Stranger Things, it's very similar in that genre, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But other than that, I don't have anything new. Do you?
I guess the only thing is that I was looking through all the field test stuff for Starfighter 2E, and so I'm and one of the last one they released was like an encounter, like 2 encounters with some, and like so I'm thinking I'm going to run those. And there also is a mod out on for Foundry that's a mod for PF2 that has all the content from the field test.
Okay.
So I'm planning to I'm gonna try and run that encounter with a group. I haven't put once I get things set up and like kind of read through it and kind of get myself wrap my head around it. I'll post out a little.
All right, yeah.
Listing for it.
And if anybody listening is like, how do I get on that action? Well, you got to be on the Discord server. And how do you get on the Discord server? You can find the link on this Twitch page, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can head over to Twitch to find the link. Or if you want, you could join Patreon, and then that'll get you in right away. All right. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Alrighty. Take care.